Okay guys, welcome to Project 5, solving a murder mystery. So the directions for this project are found where they are always found on Classcraft underneath the task section. And you can just find them by clicking on directions. And I'll just go over them really fast with you. So the idea behind this is that there's been a murder and you are a detective and you are trying to figure out who did the murder. But the only thing you know is that it was parents that were murdered by their son, which is really sad. We don't want that to happen. But because we know that it's the son, we know that we can use genetics to solve the crime. So first of all, though, because you're a detective, you need to convince your police department colleagues that genetics will be able to help you solve the crime. So there's a couple of things you need to do. As you can see here, I'll highlight it for you. These sections are kind of like a normal presentation section like we've worked on before. You can do it in a Keynote or you can do it in a Pages document or something. But we need to give some background on genetics to convince the other detectives that genetics will help you solve the crime. So first you need to explain how James Watson and Francis Crick and Rosalind Franklin helped to discover the structure of DNA. Make sure it's in your own words. Remember, if you're just copying from the internet, you're not going to get very many points or any points at all. So make sure you write it in your own words. Explain the central dogma of biology in your own words. The central dogma is a pretty interesting part of biology, but also pretty simple. So you'll learn about that. Draw the structure of DNA, label the base pairs and the sugar backbone, and explain what they do in your own words. So the base pairs and the sugar backbone are different parts of DNA. You have to say what they do. And then also explain the difference between a genotype and a phenotype. Those are two different things, both important, but you need to know the difference between them. So after you do your presentation, the police chief has decided to give you access to the crime scene, conveniently located in the back of Mr. B's classroom. So I think most of you have seen the crime scene already. You decide to use the traits of the two victims to determine the most likely suspect from a series of people the police are interested in. Because you are such a science whiz, you understand the following about the inheritance patterns of certain traits. Now I have to say, as you can see in this warning right here, this is a lot simpler. This project isn't like real life. Like hair color is not determined in an incomplete dominance pattern in real life. Fingernail shape is not inherited in a codominance pattern in real life. But just for the purposes of the project, they are. So hair color is incomplete dominance. Fingernail shape is codominance. Earlobe attachment is inherited in a recessive pattern. Okay, so you have to learn what all these things are. Height is inherited in a dominant pattern. Long feet are inherited in a dominant pattern. Okay. So that's what those are. Then you're gonna figure out what traits the two victims has. The back of the classroom will tell you more about how you can determine that, how they are measured, all that certain thing. So then you have to make a presentation explaining what incomplete dominance is and say what the hair color of the son should be. Explain what codominance is and explain what the shape of fingernails the son should have. Explain what dominant and recessive genes are. Draw a Punnett square for the earlobe attachment, height, and foot length genes and say what the son should have. So I think a lot of you have done Punnett squares in like 6th grade, which is great. But those will help you determine, especially between dominant and recessive genes, which is the most likely thing for the son to have. And then you have to pick the son from a list of suspects to find the murderer. So the list of suspects is on Classcraft. You go down to the bottom. The suspect list. So you can see here you have Cody, Alejandro, Jorge, all these different people, and they have different hair color, long feet, and they tell you what type of fingernails they have. So this suspect list will tell you the different potential people. Then if you come over here, you can see in my classroom, these are the two outlines of the victims. You can measure if you see here, you can measure their feet and their height. That will tell you two important things about their inheritance patterns. You can look at the different hair samples we have here. Here are some tape measures that you can use. Just treat them nicely so you don't have to buy new ones. The two fingernail types. And then here's a little bit more information about like the earlobes and all that stuff. So you're going to use all that to determine the genetics of the two parents and hopefully be able to figure out who committed the murder. So good luck.